Okay, let's do some shade comparisons. So I've got the shade 400. So it's not a bad shade. I do think that it's a little bit too warm. So this is the shade 400. Now I'm gonna compare this right next to my Dior foundation and let's see what that looks like. So that's the Dior foundation in 3 Warm Olive, and right next to that I'm going to apply the latest foundation review that I did on Urban Decay Stay Naked Weightless Foundation in the shade 51WY. And I'll put a link to that foundation review up the top if you're interested. And this is what 51WY looks like next to on my skin. And I'm actually gonna go change my top because it's a little bit cold. I'm gonna put something warmer and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm just gonna go in with a pump of this. So I actually bought this foundation in store, and unfortunately here in New Zealand I didn't see a full range of the shades. Apparently this foundation comes in many shades, but I only saw about, I don't know, 14 shades in store. And so this was the shade that was the closest match out of the ones that were in store. So probably isn't the best shade for me, but this is what we're working with. Okay, now I'm just going to smooth this out with my normal foundation brush. It goes on the skin pretty well. And now let's see the forehead. I did use a chemical exfoliant last night. Not bad. It really hasn't clung to my dry patch on my forehead, which is great. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit more foundation just to see how this builds. Just got a little bit more, and I'm just going to go back in and add a teeny tiny more. So the coverage is definitely medium. I don't think you're going to get full coverage out of this, which to me particularly isn't important. I generally wear medium coverage anyway, so I'm okay with that. And this is how my pimples are showing up. Again, it does cover them slightly, but you know, not too much. Okay, it went on pretty well. It didn't go patchy. Okay, this is coming in close, and I've done my lights just so you can see the texture on my skin. And this is what the foundation looks like. This is my forehead. So it has clung to my dry patch here just a little bit, so it's really not too much. And on the other side. Okay, now let's go in with the concealer. So this is in the shade 055. I feel like the concealer range was also limited in store anyway, because this shade was a little bit too dark and the shade just before this was too light. So I opted to go for this shade. So I'm just going to add this right here. I mean, this is a nice shade for everyday wear, especially when you want to have a bit of a natural makeup look, and having too bright an under eye can take away from that. So this is quite a good shade for that. And I'm just going to add a little bit more. This is what the concealer looks like. I feel like I need to add more. So I do think I've added enough product, but I feel like it just doesn't give me enough coverage. It looks very natural under the eye, but I would have to put more of this on to build coverage. So let's just do that. Let's just add a little bit more right here. And I'm going to pat this in. It blends in quite easily with my fingers, so I'm not finding that this sets completely and then it's hard to move, nothing like that. It's quite fluid, blends easily, so I didn't have to work too hard. But really, I don't think you can get any more coverage out of this. Not a full coverage concealer, definitely medium coverage. So I'm just gonna even the other side, do the rest on my face, and then I will be back. Cutie, 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 cutie. Oh. Hey guys, I'm back and the sun has come out, so it's kind of screwing up my lighting. Okay, so this is what the foundation looks like. Let's give this an 8-hour wear test, and I'm gonna come back in and show you what this foundation looks like at the end of the day and give you my full review. Hey guys, it's been 9 hours. I am about ready to turn in. So I want to show you what this foundation looks like. I'm just gonna dim my lights a little bit and I'll come in closer. Okay, so coming up close, obviously my skin is very shiny. I haven't at all put any powder on my face in the 9 hours. I only put powder on my face right at the beginning when I was done with my makeup application, and I used the Charlotte Tilbury powder that I always use. So coming in a bit closer, this is what my skin looks like. The foundation is still on. As you can see, the foundation is still on my face. It hasn't oxidized at all. I feel like how I put it on before, the color hasn't really changed. The color is pretty much the same, which is great. It has settled into my fine lines around my mouth. And normally, most foundations do anyway, like that's not a big deal, and you would kind of tap that away throughout the day if you see that. But it has done a little bit of a clumping right here around my lip line. Not a big deal. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to blot while we're here as well, just so you're not seeing this hugely shiny face staring at you. And I didn't blot this whole 9 hours either, so it held up pretty well for my oily areas. And to me, the foundation hasn't really moved. The only thing that's happened is that a little bit of the foundation has worn off on my nose. And I did touch my nose quite a bit today, so that's probably why. And then I've got, of course, the laugh lines, and just this area around my mouth is a little bit cakey. And that's because I was trying to build more product and trying to increase that coverage around my cheek and my mouth area. So I think with this foundation, stick to light to semi-medium, at the max medium coverage. If you try and build any more than that, this foundation looks cakey. So it's not just today. I've tried this foundation a few times now, and every time I try to build this up, it would look cakey. So that's what happens with this foundation if you use a lot of it. So you just have to be careful to not use too much. It has a matte finish, but I don't think it's a flat matte. Like, I don't look like death. It looks pretty good. I do really like how this looks, and especially for a drugstore price, I think this is great. This foundation also didn't give me any irritation, nothing. It didn't break me out, and that's fantastic. It also didn't cling too much to my dry patches. So again, I definitely expect foundations to cling to my dry patches. It's a normal thing for me, but as long as it doesn't happen too much, I'm happy with it. And what I can see from my forehead looks okay. It's clunked a little bit, but it's not really obvious. You would have to be super up close to notice that. So I'm totally okay with that. So for me, this foundation is a tick. Now let's talk about concealer. I'm gonna come in close again and check out my concealer. It looks really good. I mean, I only have a very small amount of creasing for my under eyes. I'm quite impressed. I wasn't expecting this concealer to perform like this. And I have tried this concealer out now for a few times, so this is not a first impression. And each time this concealer has lasted all day on me without any fading and without too much creasing either. Like, I only have very little creasing on both eyes, and at the 9-hour mark, really, this is great. I'm happy with this. I have no issues. I didn't bake or anything with this concealer. All I did was pop this on, and then I just added a little bit of my RCMA no color powder on top, and that What was it? If I was you and your skin color is just like mine, go for a shade lighter if you can. I will go back to the store and see if I can find more shades in this. I'm not sure if it was just that particular store that didn't carry any other shades, so I'll check that out. And of course, if you're a little bit darker than me, then I think this shade will work well for you. This is the shade right here. So this is the shade 055. And it's actually got a really nice undertone, because this type of undertone not only conceals but also actually helps to correct the under eyes. So happy about this, but I just wish it was a little bit lighter. That would work for my winter skin, but I'm gonna check that out because I really like how this drugstore concealer works so well on me. It stayed put all day. I'm really happy with it. Okay, so some shade comparisons for the concealer. Revlon Candid Concealer in the shade 055. Maybelline Instant Age Rewind in the shade Golden. Maybelline Instant Age Rewind in the shade Medium. Charlotte Tilbury Liquid Concealer in the shade 8. MAC Studio Fix 24 Hour in the shade NC44. Too Faced Born This Way Concealer in the shade Warm Sand. Too Faced Born This Way Concealer in the shade Sand. Pat McGrath Concealer in the shade LM14. And lastly, we've got Shape Tape in the shade Medium. This was a pleasant surprise for me. It's been a while since I worn drugstore foundations, so I'm pretty happy with these. If I had to pick out of these two, for me the clear winner is the concealer. I really enjoyed wearing this concealer. I hope you really enjoyed this review, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Do let me know if there are any other specific drugstore foundations that you want me to try out, because I'll try and get a hold of them and review them for you. Make sure to comment below and let me know what you're after. And I'll see you guys in my next video. See ya!